welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. My name is Sophia Yelkin, and I'm a tobacco prevention health educator here at the Lincoln and Lancaster County Health Department and part of the Tobacco Free Lancaster County Coalition. This is going to be a pretty fast and furious 30 minutes as we share about tobacco use and mental health, and specifically how wellness professionals can support employees and their families. So a quick reminder before I introduce our panelists to please just ensure you're on mute unless you're asking a question. And also I'll be monitoring the chat box for questions, so just feel free to throw those in there at any time. All right, so here's our panelists today. We're excited to have them here and welcome. First, we have Sam Dolezal, a Wellbeing Officer at Union Bank and Trust, and Kristin Walstad, Health and Wellbeing Coordinator at CenterPointe. Quick before I do the other two, UBT and CenterPointe were our tobacco-free business champions in 2021 for TFLC. So they're definitely going to have some great insights for us and some great expertise, as well as our other two panelists, Rehm, Wellness Services Manager at Nebraska Safety Council and Workwell, as well as Jeff Soukup, the Tobacco Policy Educator for Tobacco Free Nebraska with DHHS. All right, so thank you for serving on our panel. Let's go ahead and just jump right in. Kristin, could you maybe start us off with a description of how mental health and tobacco use are related, and perhaps how tobacco use affects mental health? Oh, you're on mute still.
About that. Yeah, they're closely related. I went through and did like a quick check on the numbers. There's about 31 million smokers in the US, I think, relative to recent statistics, and about 35% of those have behavioral health conditions. So those rates of smokers get higher as you go into other groups, like individuals with schizophrenia, individuals living with bipolar disorder. It can be as high as 70%, 80%. So it's something that's really common. I think the question is why do individuals who are dealing with mental health issues smoke? Why is that pairing so common? And I think the main way of looking at it is when you're dealing with the symptoms are typically really unpredictable. So having something like nicotine around, which you can get at a gas station for a relatively cheap price, that has a consistent effect every single time, is the draw for a lot of individuals who are smokers. And you've got also individuals with trauma. And so it's something that can predictably alleviate stress, provide a feeling of relaxation in the moment. Whereas you really can't get to a mental health treatment center, a hospital that'll give you that kind of relief. And so that's really why the two get tied together. In terms of what tobacco does on mental health, I did a research on that. It's so smokers are more likely to have depressive symptoms, to have suicidal thoughts and actions. They're more likely to have psychiatric hospital stays, more likely to relapse into alcohol use if they have previously quit. So it's not a positive influence. Obviously, nicotine is also highly addictive. It's typically used in pairing with other substances at times too. So that aspect is in there. And then also, tobacco actually, for some psychiatric medications, antipsychotics are one group, it can actually reduce the effectiveness of those medications. So it's not something that the body absorbs in isolation. It relates to the psychiatric treatment part of it as well. So it's there, and it's something, it's like I said, it's not a health product. So it has consequences. You smoke for a while, you have smoker's cough, you've got these complications that cost money, time, etc., which can be disappointing as well, I think.
Yeah, do any of our other panelists have anything to add regarding that?
Well, to add what was mentioned earlier, I mean, when you smoke, chew, vape, take in that nicotine, it sends a message to your brain and it attaches to receptors, and you get that feeling of relief that was referenced earlier. And so you want to feel better. And so individuals are reaching for that nicotine product because they want to feel relief. They want to feel better. It sends that message to your brain. Dopamine is releasing that good feeling. And so when that dopamine drops, then you start to crave nicotine again. And so it's kind of a vicious cycle. And nicotine use it's a habit that's easy to start, but it's very difficult to change or to impact your use of nicotine. So yeah, they go hand in hand. And as your stress level goes up, you're looking for relief, you're looking for opportunity to feel better. And for those individuals that are using nicotine, it's a quick release and a quick response to that stress response. So
yeah, we definitely wanted to touch on that stress situation, because I know that as health educators, when we're out in the community, people are always saying that's why that's why they use tobacco, or that's why it's not a good time to quit, is because it's just too stressful right now. Could you maybe, Karen, can you tell us a little bit more about like what would be a benefit of quitting related to stress?
well, a benefit is that you're not feeling what's the word? Alert. Well, I don't want to say alert. You're not feeling that, I'll use alert, like a better word. When you're taking nicotine in, it's a stimulant, and so it increases your heart rate, your blood pressure. So it has the physical impact on your body. It also, when you are craving nicotine, it also increases or decreases your concentration, communication. It can interfere with sleep patterns. And so again, when you're in a stressful situation, you want to make sure that you are making healthier choices for your lifestyle. It's always best to move more, because that can be a strategy to reduce that craving that you have for nicotine. So going for a walk, getting up, moving around, doing some stretches. Also pairing that with caffeine, nicotine and caffeine, they're stimulants. And so they put you on alert. Your body is functioning at a different level. And then when that dopamine level goes down, that caffeine level goes down, then your body starts to feel it. And that's when you feel tired, sluggish, concentration decreases. So there are physical and psychological impact when you are utilizing nicotine or trying to come off of nicotine, because it is an addictive habit and it's hard to break.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. So we're definitely emphasizing that stress is a component for tobacco use. Sam, could you maybe add some resources that are available for just targeting that stress versus like an option for targeting stress relief that's different than tobacco use that you can share with your employees?
So I think there's multiple ways to kind of target this. One, sharing information about the ways that we can cope with stress that aren't tobacco. So whether, as Karen mentioned, physical activity, how can you promote that? Sleep, getting enough sleep in your day, knowing that, hey, I'm ready for the next day, somewhat prepared in those aspects, along with then just helping folks feel supported in their daily lives, whether that's mental health therapy, connections with their managers or other associates, and then also at home with friends and family. When we talk about then more specific tobacco use and kind of supporting their Tobacco Free Nebraska was great. Sophia and I were just talking about I got my little box yesterday of goodies that we will be utilizing throughout the rest of the year. And then FDA, they have a resource library that you can order from that will then ship you posters and whatnot for free that we have used in the past to, again, just support our employees across the spectrum, whether it's not starting, helping them decrease their usage, or quitting completely.
Great. So knowing that those resources are available and connecting them to your employees is very important, obviously. What about like local cessation options that are tobacco specific? What kind of programs are available in our community for that? Karen, could you maybe start with some of the programs you're aware of?
Mm-hmm. I know Nebraska Safety Council offers Break the Habit tobacco cessation program. It's a 6-week program. It partners both one-on-one coaching, but then also educational group sessions. We also have locally Madonna Fit for Work with their Fit to Quit program. And then also CHI, Spirit Health, they have resources available too. So what's great is that we have some local resources that are very widespread and beneficial for individuals. I think the most important aspect is to meet individuals where they're at and when they're ready to make that decision. And as you know, with adult educational messages, it takes a good 7 times or more to hear that message, or a major life event in order to make a change. So it's good to know all these resources at the federal, the state, and the local level.
Great. Yeah, thanks for sharing those. What if an employee wellness professional wants to just learn more about tobacco cessation themselves? What learning opportunities or trainings are available for wellness professionals to learn more? Kristin, could you maybe share?
Yeah, so CenterPointe uses the Beat the Pack program. Beat the Pack is offered by Pfizer. You can find it just beatthepack.com. What that program offers, it's like a 4-session. It's a great thing to pick through if you want to know the key topics they hit on, but it's a 4-session program where they talk about health benefits, kinds of support. So that includes medicine, counseling, how to deal with slip-ups, and then like long-term success. So I use those. Those are about 15-minute presentations that I do with groups here. We also offer support to the community as well here at CenterPointe. But if you want to know kind of the standard things to include, that's a really good one. And that's beatthepack.com. Yeah.
Great. And that is on the resource page that I just shared in the chat. So there's all sorts of resources on there for everybody watching. Jeff, could you just tell us a little bit more about what TFN offers as far as free learning opportunities?
Sure, you bet. I'm putting in the chat right now places that you can go for more resources about the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line. One of the things that I'll mention, and maybe to kind of summarize what everyone said about, stress and behavioral health or mental health issues and how they play into it. For every person, there's going to, how they ended up becoming addicted to nicotine is going to be very different. It's going to be very individualized. And in that case, and because that's the case, that treatment and journey to cessation, that journey to quitting is going to be individualized and different for just about everybody. Now, there's some common things that happen. There's some common reactions to addiction and to withdrawal and all those kinds of things. But for everyone, that they have a history of what products they're using. They might be mixing different, smoking and vaping and a little bit of this and a little bit of that as far as how they're doing nicotine. They more than likely have a history of quit attempts and periods of sobriety that they've had with nicotine as well. And one of the nice things about the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line is that when they call, they go through that history and they go through that individualization, or they meet them where they're at. When that person calls that quit line, they're connected with a counselor. That's a free service that's available 24/7. It may be that someone that is ready to quit. This is the moment. I've decided, I've picked up the phone, I've logged on to the website. This is that moment. For a lot of people, it might be, I'm kind of thinking about it, but I'm not sure. It might be in my future, but I'm still kind of kicking it around. And so that counselor is going to meet them where they're at in figuring that out, setting up that quit plan as to when that date might be when they do quit, and then connecting them with resources that might be there in the community as well. It's a service that also provides nicotine replacement therapy free of charge. So patches, gums, and lozenges. If that's part of the plan, that's no matter where their income level is at, that's free to every Nebraskan to provide that. So that can be part of that plan as well. That might be for everybody. That might be for somebody. That might not be for everybody. That might be the route that they go with the replacement therapy as part of that quit plan that they have. And so we know that when they're reaching out and connecting with resources, whether that be with their wellness, worksite wellness program, or a community resource, or through the Nebraska Quit Line, when they're connecting with those resources, there's better likelihood that that's going to be their last quit attempt. That's going to be the one where they finally cross that finish line and maintain that sobriety from nicotine. And my dogs agree with that statement. And so, but if you go to that website, to the quitnow.ne.gov, that's not only intended for those that are thinking about quitting or kicking it around, but also for those family members as well as professionals in that person's life to gain resources. There's some training opportunities that offer CEUs, CMEs for professionals as well, including one specific training to tobacco and working with behavioral health community. And so, and then, you know, if you ever have questions, there's lots of ways to ask questions and gain Quitline promotional resources as well. So all of that, that's the one-stop shopping for all of that information there.
Great. Yeah. And Sam touched on, she's already taken advantage of some of those resources that are available. They're really easy to find on the website. So just go ahead and check that out. Also, just kind of a shameless plug from Tobacco Free Lancaster County, because I know both Kristin and Sam have participated in the past for our Great American Smokeout each November. And I'm getting materials ready for that to go out. There's actually a link on our resource page that we sent to register for that and just get even more materials and kind of a excuse to highlight tobacco cessation as something let's put attention on. It's the third week of November, and we're just really looking to get a strong community support for those that want to quit tobacco. So there's my shameless plug. In addition to all these other great options that everyone else on the panel has shared, I know that when we're out in the community, we often encounter friends and family that want to encourage or support somebody to quit tobacco, but they're unsure about how to do it. Like, what is the best way to do this? I have a handout that we share in the community. I'll put it in the chat here in just a minute. But as wellness professionals, that role might look a little bit different. So Sam, can you maybe start off by sharing with us some practical tips for supporting an employee at really any stage of their quit?
Yeah, I think the starting point for us is our culture. We ultimately want to support employees to live their best life, both at work with us and at home with their families. And with that kind of background, then that's where our marketing comes from, is not you're a number on our health plan or, you know, kind of that sense, the number sense. We're looking at you as a person. We truly want you to be happy and healthy. And as Kristin and Karen mentioned earlier, again, maybe there are some mental health concerns that are making this tobacco cessation journey a little bit tougher, a little bit longer. And so offering support in lots of different categories. But again, we can have all the support in the world, and if we don't communicate that properly, it can just fall on deaf ears. So we do print, we do email, we make it regularly available to folks. Again, I just ordered all these magnets and handouts to take with us when we get to open enrollment season. So we're actually able to hand these items out and make them available for folks too. So lots of communication on our end, again, throughout the year, not just in November or not just, you know, tobacco cessation week, but throughout the year, that consistent message, hey, we as a organization care about you. We care about your family. We want you to live your best life. Here are all the resources that are available to you, again, so that they're able to get what they need when they need it.
That's great. Yeah, because quitting can happen at any time, and it's when you're ready is the right time for sure. Kristin, you at CenterPointe also, as tobacco-free business champions, have a really, I guess, personal approach to tobacco cessation with your employees. Could you maybe also share it a little bit?
Yeah, so it's you know, from my perspective, well, health and well-being is a big focus at CenterPointe. So when we talk about it, we talk about kind of the human aspect, the excitement of like taking a cooking class or something like that. So, you know, we talked about tobacco is addictive, right? So what happens? You end up a smoker, whether you might mean to or not. Kind of Jeff talked a lot about it being a journey. You know, a lot of folks, the stats are that you get exposed to nicotine products before the age of 18. Might be your parents, it might be your friends, you might be rebelling, whatever it is. It's a human thing to try tobacco, to be a tobacco user. So we want to be really understanding in that respect. And so when we were working on building a better nicotine-free, tobacco-free atmosphere here, we have like an internal Facebook. So we've got a group for staff there. I mean, basically, you know, I always want to emphasize that quitting is a similar process for everybody, you know, so we're all kind of in it together. And so that's, you know, kind of the community vibe that we try to have at CenterPointe. And, you know, I know the stats, like some of the stats I gave at the beginning don't necessarily apply to everybody. I work obviously in mental health. So some of the like numbers in terms of conditions and whatnot, but people are people, and they're living, they want to live a rich life, but they can get impacted by things. And so we just want to understand somebody who's living, and there may be milestones and things that happen, but they're people, and we really value that. So.
Fabulous. Yeah, I think that's definitely what you need to do. Jeff, it looks like you wanted to add.
I was just thinking I would really like to emphasize what Kristin said about being that understanding approach and that positive approach to it, because I would almost guarantee that for every one of those tobacco users that they've tried and in their mind have failed at trying to quit. And so they feel a little bit defeated. They feel a little bit discouraged about that. They feel a little bit, it's a smaller and smaller group of those that are smokers and, feeling like they are sort of on that outside. And so I think being understanding of that, knowing that, quitting takes practice. It's just, it's going to, it's going to be 6 or 7, sometimes more attempts before that finally happens. And so I think that kind of, you use the word approaching it with understanding. And I think that's a really important message and important sort of vibe that they're feeling as you're talking about that.
When they say in research, like about almost 70% of current smokers want to quit, right? It's
Right.
It's a unique habit. No one really says, well, I want to quit eating better, but it sounds really difficult. It's and that's since people aren't alone. They're not the only one who's struggling. And so those numbers are available, in like Beat the Pack offers that you can get those data points for people that get to the stigma part of it and just say, you're not alone. You're not alone. The multiple attempts absolutely are normal. You're doing your best. You're making great choices, and that's exciting. So, yeah.
That is great. I think one thing we also like to highlight is celebrating those small successes. So even if you have that slip, if you celebrate, like I went an entire day without a cigarette, or even I just skipped a smoke break, if you tell yourself good job for that, your brain's actually changing its neural pathway ever so slightly so that you start making more positive choices in the future. So yeah, definitely. Let's see here. We're getting close to the end of our time. And this was the bullet points that we wanted to hit. And we got a lot of great information from our panelists. So we do have a few minutes left here for questions. So if anyone listening has a question, please unmute yourself or type it in the chat and we can pose those to our panelists. While people are thinking about that, I did get a few questions in registration here. And one that we kind of touched on at the end very vaguely was how people start tobacco or experiment with tobacco as part of sort of the human experience. And it happens without wanting to be addicted and that sort of thing. And it kind of is touching on tobacco use not being just that 40 plus smoking cigarettes in the parking lot that you kind of picture when you're talking about smoking cessation, that there's these new products, vaping, nicotine, flavors, all these things introduced to the market, enticing people of all ages to start and continue tobacco use. So do you feel like that affects your work with your employees, and how are you addressing these changes? Sam, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I can start there. I know when e-cigarettes and vaping really started to find their kind of high, we did notice, as we saw our tobacco usage rate go up with it. And essentially more of it was around education and helping folks realize what's in this, what are the impacts, and this isn't something you can necessarily just walk away from at any given point. There are negative outcomes. And the way that I explain it to folks is, okay, you start drinking coffee and you really like it and it's really great. And then you say, it's getting really expensive. I'm just going to quit one day. And the next day you're like, whoa, I can't just quit cold turkey. And you didn't realize all these other things were at play. But again, that education piece and support around it, that, hey, even if you're in the middle of this, we're here for you. So when you get to that point, hey, I'm ready for a change, we're there also. But I do think, yes, it's it's becoming more and more challenging. We're having a wider spread of users, and there's more products available, and there's more products with flavoring in them and ways to get them. And it's just becoming a more interesting environment where tobacco cessation is not just the cigarette or the chew anymore for folks 40 plus, like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, at CenterPointe, we have treatment sites where we're tobacco free, nicotine free, and so we just try to make sure that's really clear in the policy. So you're not exempt if you're vaping. You still need to go out to a designated spot if you are gonna vape. So I think we've done a nice job of tying that together so everybody knows that if it's a nicotine product, there are just certain rules in place. Because the last thing we want is anything accidentally getting near one of the individuals that we serve. So, but I feel like it's been clear. We've updated that pretty consistently and kind of stayed updated with the times, I guess, with what's going on. So, yeah.
In working with employers, we want to make sure that a plan is in place and allowing employees enough time to physically and mentally adjust to a new policy. So if you're going nicotine-free campus, you want to make sure that you have at least 12 to 18 months advance notice that this is happening, and then offer the tobacco cessation or nicotine cessation programs to help them meet that goal and help them be successful.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely important to acknowledge the addiction component of nicotine and not just cutting somebody off to their coffee, right, Sam? Yeah. We do have one question in the chat here. I think it'll be our last one probably. What are your thoughts on follow-up with employees planning cessation? How often do you follow up with them? So if someone comes to you saying they want to quit.
I think that's something that you could just talk to them about right at the beginning, and say like, hey, you're interested, without like, dogging them or whatnot, but sort of walk along with them. So, hey, if I check back with you, when would it be a good time? Is it 3 months from now? Is it a month from now? But letting it be their decision on when you decide to chime in. I think, and I just, that way it's more collaborative.
Yeah, I think giving people's choices is always the right way to go if they get to have that input into what's going to happen, for sure. All right. Well, thank you, panelists, and thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Please enjoy the resources that we shared and use them in the chat. If you have any questions or need follow-up on that, feel free to contact me. And don't forget to register for our community-wide Great American Smokeout. And you can also find any resources you need on tobaccofreelancastercounty.org. So thank you once again, and this session was recorded, so it will be available on our website, and we'll email it out to you in case you want to share it with anybody. But thank you and have a great day.